Yeah. I'm going to start making you introduce these episodes because I never know exactly how to start this out.
Let's try. Welcome to 2 Cents, a shorter version of Bank Chats where we find something interesting, or at least to us, in the news.
Say interesting to us.
Yeah. Tied to something financial and let you guys enjoy.
Yeah. So what are we talking about today?
So today we're talking about traveling, specifically keeping your money safe while traveling and how to save a little bit of money if you're going to go on vacation this year. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I constantly catch grief from the other folks that we work with because I hardly ever go anywhere on vacation. I'm always doing staycations.
Yeah, I don't go a lot of places either, though.
Yeah. Well, you guys don't you guys go down to like South Carolina or something?
Recently, like the last couple years, but that's like a new thing.
Yeah.
We go camping. We used to do a lot of camping.
Yeah.
It's more local. I have like a radius, I like to stay within a couple hours. Yeah.
I can't blame you there. I used to go on. My parents go to the beach every year. So when I grew up, we would go. We always went to the same beach. We always went to a beach in North Carolina, and it was wonderful. Absolutely loved it. But that was sort of the standard thing where we didn't do the typical family like get in the car and drive across the country and see Mount Rushmore and come back or anything that kind of thing.
We used to go to Florida every year, but that was to visit family, and that was kind of like a home away from home because you left your home to go to an even nicer home in a warmer place. And, and do that year after year. It kind of gets very comfortable.
Yeah, I was to say the comfort level, because I can tell you that where my family vacations, I can drive down there. I don't need a map. I know exactly where to go, and once I'm there, I know where all the hot spots are. I know where all the little restaurants are, and these aren't like the tourist trap restaurants. Like these are the restaurants that we have found over the course of 2 decades of vacationing in that area. So you kind of feel like a quasi-local in a weird way.
Yeah, you do it enough.
Yeah. But I am going on a trip this year. Woo, yeah. My wife's nephew is getting married, so we're actually going to travel out to Kansas later this summer.
Oh, cool!
And
you've never been to Kansas?
I've never been to Kansas, and I've heard it's very flat. Everything's very straight.
Yeah. Watch for those, tornadoes and all that.
Yeah, I get the impression that they really hate the Wizard of Oz out there.
I would think so. I think
they're about done with the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
I bet they sell a lot of touristy stuff that's related to Wizard of Oz, but I think the locals are a bit tired of Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
I think after 100 years of that, they're about done.
Yeah.
So what are some of the tips that you have? Like, so you said we're going to talk about how do you typically save money whenever you travel? Like,
I try to book pretty far in advance if I can. If I know it's it's not a sporadic,
spur of the moment
trip. Yeah, I'll try to book a little bit in advance. Usually you can get a little bit cheaper flights, or but some airlines, you book last minute and they're trying to fill the seats, so they'll give you a good deal too. So I guess it's kind of what kind of trip you want to go on.
Yeah, I read, and I don't know if this is true, but because we were booking flights for the trip out to Kansas, I read that the best time to typically book a flight is about 8 weeks before you want to fly.
Okay.
So before that, the prices are all over the place. And then as you get closer to the flight, unless you want to try to get like a standby ticket, you get kind of one of those things where you don't want to book too late, because then they can upcharge you. Say, well, hey, look, I only got 2 seats left. This whole supply and demand thing.
Sure.
But they say like 8 weeks out. Now, I don't know if that's really true or not.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Probably depends on the airline too. You get some budget airlines, you can book a little closer to the trip and still not be as expensive as some of the bigger airlines.
Yeah. Now that's the thing that's big in the news right now is how Southwest Airlines is no longer going to be doing the bags fly free thing. And the matter of fact is, as I think that by the time this airs, that will be done.
Okay.
So unless you buy a certain class of ticket or something like that, but that was a big deal. I mean, that was like their big catch. I don't want to say catchphrase, but it was their big selling points. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the tips was, travel light If it's a in case I need clothing item, probably leave that at home.
Especially if you're flying, you mean?
Right.
Yeah.
I know when we travel, even down to the beach, down to Myrtle, we try to just do our normal carry on. And granted, we're not going for 2 weeks at a time, but if you don't need 5 pair of socks to go for a 3-day trip, leave those a few pair at home.
That makes sense to me. Like if we do go someplace, and especially if you rent a house, like on the beach, if you rent a house on the beach, a lot of times they'll have a washer and dryer there.
Yeah.
I don't care if I wear the same T-shirt every day. Who am I there to impress?
Sure,
I just want to go and sit on the beach and maybe go out to a couple of. So you're right. I don't need to take 5 different shirts. I can take 2 T-shirts and I can throw one in the wash and wear the other one. It doesn't matter to me.
And if you're staying with family, and you can leave some stuff there for next year if you're planning on going back. You could do that. I know we did that whenever we went up to Alaska. We left some stuff. We left fishing supplies and stuff. Instead of tracking that back home to Pennsylvania, we just left it up in Alaska.
Yeah. No live bait though, I would imagine.
No, not anymore.
Yeah. I'll leave the worms here. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I don't think you probably don't use worms whenever because you're sea fishing, right? Yeah.
Mostly you do river fishing for salmon and stuff too. But
fly fishing or
yeah.
Nice. So how often do you fly versus? I guess that's another thing you could actually try to price out is whether it's cheaper to fly or whether it's cheaper to drive.
Oh yeah.
To your destination, because that was another thing we considered. So it's about an 18-hour drive from here to the town in Kansas where we're going.
Okay.
Right. So at one point when we looked at flights the first time, and this was maybe about 4 months ago, there was no flight that we could find that was less than about $800, $900 for a round trip flight.
I can believe it.
And we actually ended up finding one that was way, way, way cheaper 8 weeks out. But we were starting to seriously consider, like, should we drive?
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's an 18-hour drive. That's a long drive, and that's like straight through. So that's as Google tells you is 18 hours.
Yeah.
So if you stop to eat, if you stop for gas, if you stop because you got to use the restroom or whatever it is, you're really going to turn that 18 hours into probably 20, 22 hours maybe, depending on. So it's about a full day's drive.
Mm-hmm.
And then you still got to account for gas, right? So you're buying gas. You're going to account for wear and tear on your car, brakes, tires, all that kind of stuff. So you got to price all that kind of stuff in, and it started to get to the point where it's like, wow, it's actually more like $500 just to drive,
Yeah.
And then there's the inconvenience of it all on top of it. So we ended up actually choosing to fly.
Well, and sometimes airlines, you're not going to get a direct flight anyway. So even though driving could take you 18 hours, that hour and a half, 2-hour flight still may take you 18 hours away from your house, away from your destination.
It's possible, depending on if you have to drive to the airport.
Yeah.
And then there's
layovers.
Layovers, yeah. Plus, then you got to consider, okay, if I'm going to be gone for 6 days, I probably have to pay for parking because I got to drive to the airport and I got to pay to park. Now, unless it's a small airport where you can get parking for free, but if you're going to a major international airport, you're probably going to pay for parking every day. So those are all kinds of things you want to consider for sure.
Yeah.
What about where you stay? Do you camp? Do you stay in hotels? Like, how do you?
We stay in hotels. We do a little bit of research to see, when the hotel was most recently renovated and how many stars it's got. But we're not too terribly picky on hotels. Camping, we've never done we used to go camping a lot, but that was the vacation was camping. It was not, go camping.
You weren't using the tent as a place to stay. That was the destination. Yeah, gotcha.
Right. What about you guys?
Usually hotels. We used to camp a lot whenever I was a little kid. My parents had a camper, and we would go camping, and we spent a lot of Memorial Days in campgrounds when it was 50 degrees and raining, and so we were playing cards in the camper, and it's like we could be doing this for free at home.
Yeah, well,
it would be warmer
together. Yeah,
it did. Yeah. You gotta keep an eye on the hotels, though. You really do, because, like you said, like I don't need a 5-star hotel. I don't need a Ritz-Carlton or a whatever. But boy, you gotta there was a story I've related to you before, but I'll relate it here. That we were traveling for a different wedding, and we went to it was going to Virginia Beach. And the full disclosure, I don't remember the name of the hotel, but I can tell you it is no longer this hotel.
Okay.
So if you as a listener or a viewer are going to Virginia Beach, you don't have to worry about this hotel because it doesn't exist anymore.
Good to know.
But
All right.
at the time, they had there was a hotel that my wife had found, and she thought it was a good deal. And there's at those kind of touristy places, there's a lot of non-name brand hotels.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so she found this hotel, and we're looking at it online. It looked really great, so we go ahead and book it. We get there, and I'm telling you, the photos from that hotel must have been taken 30 years prior. And
You got catfished.
we got it was
Yeah.
awful. We walked into the room, and my stepdaughter goes, half the TV stand is missing.
Oh, geez.
The term missing, it wasn't broken. It wasn't off. It was just gone.
Oh, wow.
There was nothing there. And I ended up trying to get us. We got out of there at it was like 2:00 in the morning. I'm next door trying to get us into a Hampton Inn, and I have always had a soft spot for Hilton hotels ever since then because they helped get us out of a very, very, very bad hotel.
Oh, jeez.
That hotel was so bad that when I went to check us out the next morning, I had to be put on hold. Like the desk attendant was like, "I'm sorry, I can't do this for you right now." And then one of the assistants comes running out of the back room holding a fire extinguisher. The dumpster out back was literally on fire.
A true dumpster fire.
It's a true dumpster fire. It was awful. So yeah, you can try to save money a little bit on hotels, but be aware of especially like the ones that aren't a chain.
Yeah.
I think that that's one of the few things that I can honestly probably say that I try to stick with a chain, because you have a reasonable expectation that company wants to put forth a good impression.
Yeah,
right?
And usually you can build some points up with chain hotels, and sometimes you can use those to book, an extra day and not get charged, those hidden fees that hotels like to charge you.
Yeah, there are. Well, and that's another thing. So when you're booking this stuff, I would say make sure that when you're looking at the rate, whatever it is, you understand that the rate they're showing you is the rate for the room, not the taxes, not the fees, not everything else. So just kind of understand that. I think when you're
That's the minimum
comparing,
you're going to pay. Yeah.
right. That is the least you're going to pay.
Yeah.
You're going to pay more than that.
Right.
And the same thing I think goes for things like airlines and booking flights and so forth. Rental cars. There's always like, oh, you can rent a car for $250 with $150 in fees. Right. But they're not charging you that. It's the state, it's the county, it's whatever.
Yeah.
But your cell phone's the same. We can get into cell phone stuff. I mean, my gosh, it's the same way, you know. So I don't know, when you were doing your reading, like when it comes to like booking hotels and stuff, do those sort of conglomerate sites like Trivago and Hotels.com and stuff, do they really save you any money?
I don't know. I didn't. The research I was doing, it didn't really talk about those sites, but yeah, you see those flashy commercials all the time, and I'm curious too. Do they actually save you money, or is it more of a scam?
I don't know that I would necessarily call it a scam.
Okay.
But what I will say is that my personal experience, and that's all this is my personal experience, I don't believe I've ever found a better rate using one of those sites than I could if I just did the research myself and went directly to the hotel.
Okay.
Now, I don't do a lot of travel, and I certainly don't do a lot of travel into big cities. So if you were traveling to Chicago or New York City or San Francisco or something, maybe they do make a difference.
Sure.
But in my personal experience, I've never really come across a deal where I got a better price by going through one of those kayak, whatever they are, sites.
I think you have to be a little bit more not as picky too if you are using one of those sites, like because I think how they work is these hotels sell the extra rooms that they have to the rates to these sites, and then I'm sure that the sites have an upcharge, but you're like getting, if you're going to the beach and you really want a balcony and an ocean view, you may not get that with one of these third party sites. You're gonna get like an interior room on the basement floor, but it's gonna be $100 less than
with
what
a view of the dumpster fire.
Right. So I mean, it depends on how picky you are with a room too.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, it's probably the same because I would imagine they probably do the same thing with airline flights. I can look for, they'll find me the cheapest airline flight. But if I'm traveling, for example, with my family, maybe the 3 seats on that plane are not together. Maybe they're all middle seats, which nobody wants to sit in.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. I mean, you're going to get it depends on whether it's more important to you to have what you're looking for or whether you want something just cheap.
Yeah.
So let's talk. So what else do you?
Food was another big one I saw. A lot of these websites just saying, if you can get a hotel room with a little dinette or something like that, and you can make your own food or bring your own snacks, you'll save a lot of money.
Yeah,
especially during the tourist season where restaurants kind of upcharge things.
Plus convenience. So I think a lot of times when you're traveling, you end up getting your snacks and stuff at convenience stores. Compared to a big box store, a Slim Jim's going to cost you a lot more at a convenience store.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So you're right. I think that's a good point. I don't know. I've done that, though, when I've traveled. Even traveling for business, there are times, especially if I'm driving, I will go to, Giant Eagle or Walmart or whatever, and I'll buy myself like some, bottles of tea or whatever and take them with me because I can throw them in the little mini fridge, and that way I don't have to use a vending machine. I don't have to. First of all, in a hotel these days, good luck finding a vending machine.
It's right next to the ice machine that doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen some horrible things about hotel ice machines. I will never eat ice out of a hotel ice.
Well, don't tell me.
If you want to put your drink in there to cool it down, that's fine, but don't put that ice in your drink because a lot of hotels have that little vending area near the front desk now.
Yeah.
And you can get stuff there. But again, you're probably going to pay 3 times what you would if it was at a regular store.
Oh, sure. Final one that I had was the big obvious one. If you can travel during the off season, travel during the off season.
Yeah.
That's always a good one.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Sometimes it's a third of the price. Sometimes it's even less than that.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to go to the beach in February. So
or September. We found that out last year. We got my wife and I got stuck in a tropical storm. We had a long weekend at the beach, and it was spent in the hotel room because of the storm.
Waiting out a tropical storm. Yeah. My parents got chased off the beach. I think 3 years ago by a hurricane.
Okay.
And thankfully they had travel insurance.
Oh, good.
Which is another thing to keep in mind. Travel insurance. Now, I will say, if you ask my mom if you ask my mom her opinion of the travel insurance and my dad his opinion of they're 2 different stories.
Okay.
Because my mom was the one that had to call the insurance company to actually get the insurance activated to get the money back.
Okay.
And the amount of paperwork and proof and rigmarole and phone calls that she had to make, and depending on the type, depending on who issues the insurance, your mileage may vary on that point.
Yeah.
But she did eventually get the money back, but it was a lot of headache. It was a lot of hassle, but it was worth it because she got probably $2,000 reimbursed.
Oh, yeah.
So while it may be a headache, I think most of the time those kinds of things are probably worthwhile, especially if you can get it through your existing insurance company.
That, or I know now credit card companies are offering that too.
Yeah. Sometimes you can get it through your credit card. Yeah. That's a really good point. A lot of people do not really know every benefit that their credit card offers. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of that happens where you get a new credit card and you all you really kind of look at is understandably things like the interest rate and things like that. But you don't realize some of those cards really do have some nice perks.
Yeah, and those points may be more useful to you while you're on vacation than at home. So take that card with you, maybe.
Yeah. So that kind of goes into the whole safety thing too. So as far as how to pay for things when you're traveling, now I'm old enough to remember traveler's checks. I don't know if you were.
I've heard of those. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're not super young, but you're not old like me either.
Yeah.
I mean, so I didn't know if traveler's checks were still a thing for you or not.
I mean, my family didn't use them whenever we traveled. My dad was like me; he was a cash guy. If he could take a bunch of cash with him, he would take a bunch of cash with him, which probably was not 100% safe either. But he also was not the guy that, would take all of it with him to the beach. If we had a safe in the room,
Sure.
put most of the money in the safe, take a couple dollars with you in case, the kids want ice cream or whatever. But
Yeah.
utilize those safes in your room.
Yeah, that's I mean, and obviously just, full disclosure, those hotels, they know how to get into those safes if they have to.
Yeah.
So, hopefully the staff that comes through to do room service or housekeeping or whatever, hopefully they don't have the codes to those safes. Most of the time, your safe is designed to keep those kinds of folks out of your business and out of your stuff. But ultimately, people, they forget what they keyed in for the code and whatnot. Yeah. So they're not 100% impenetrable by hotel staff. No. So just, something to keep in mind when it comes to that. Yeah. But yeah, that's a good point. I
always bring a lock with me too to put on my luggage. So if there's no safe in the room, or I don't feel safe with the safe, I'll put everything in my suitcase and lock it up and keep the key with me then.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can log off with your suitcase, I guess, but it probably deters people more than just having your wallet sitting out on the dresser.
It keeps honest people honest.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It
out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. Don't go looking for it type thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I get that. I would also say a lot of times, if you can, especially these days, if you have the ability to use a credit card while you're traveling, do that. Even if you intend to pay cash, quote unquote, for everything, use the credit card, pay it off when you get home, because you're then not sharing your debit card information with everybody out of state that you normally would never frequent.
Yeah.
Certain stores or restaurants, whatnot. You don't know in some of these places where they get a lot of tourists, if you have an honest waiter or waitress, when they take your card, they might write down the number. And then you end up with fraud or something else on the card. Mm-hmm. So if you use a credit card, it's generally a lot easier to
fight those fraudulent transactions.
Yeah.
Possibly. Now, what about, Apple Pay? So you could probably use Apple Pay with your debit card. It'd be a little safer than using your debit card in general, because that encrypts it and you have a specific key on your phone, or some identifier that your number's not getting leaked out ever.
Yeah, your number's never shared with Apple Pay.
Yeah.
So that's not necessarily endorsing it, but I'm kind of endorsing it. Like, Apple Pay right now is probably one of the most secure ways that you can conduct a transaction. I get very frustrated with a lot of companies who do not have Apple Pay set up the way it was intended to be used.
Okay.
Because I go and I use Apple Pay at the grocery store or and a lot of times I'll still be prompted for my PIN or something like that. You're not even supposed to have to do that. The idea is that your thumbprint, your face, your biometrics are securing that transaction, but yet stores, they don't always have it set up the right way.
Yeah, at least that's not being shared with.
But you're right, you're not sharing. So even if because there was a story. Now, I'm going back probably 6-7 years now, but there was a story where one of the big box stores, I think, and then there was a fast food joint that got hacked. Okay. And they stole the stored credit card and debit card information that company had on file.
Oh.
So it wasn't even like you got hacked per se. It was that you had used your card at that store got hacked, and then so with Apple Pay, none of that stuff's ever shared.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But if you're using your debit card on vacation and that card gets hacked, they could clean out your checking account.
Yeah, they could.
Right? They could take every dime you have. And that's a lot harder to recover from than to be able to call your credit card company and say, hey, I'm disputing every transaction from this date on. I'm going to report my card stolen. And at least they're not liquidating your checking account that you pay your bills out of, most likely.
Right. And make sure, if you are traveling with a credit card or a debit card or anything like that, if you have an RFID wallet, probably be safest to use one of those, because you're out in public with a large group of people. It's nothing for someone to use a credit card skimmer and just walk by you, and steal your information, especially in those large crowds.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Those are increasingly common, those RFID card, like touch. This basically any card that has the little Wi-Fi symbol on it.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. So if your card doesn't require you to insert it into the machine or swipe the card through the machine, if you could just tap your card on the machine that has an RFID chip in it, you should probably, like Jeff said, probably have one of those protectors that helps to block that signal.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, somebody can't stand across the room and grab that signal from you, but they can be standing right behind you in line,
right,
and potentially grab that signal.
Right.
So
the digital pickpocketing now, it's no longer, hand in the pocket, grabbing your wallet. It's, just
it's
breezing past you and stealing a number. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the days, going back to the cash conversation, that when we would go on vacation, I had to go to the bank and I would take out X number of dollars in cash and take that with you. I had to remember to do that. Nowadays, you don't have to even think about it because you can get access to your cash through an ATM or whatever.
Yeah.
But ATMs are another thing you want to be careful of, especially in areas where there's a lot of tourists, because you'll find skimmers on ATMs. You're on the boardwalk. You're not in a secure location. You're not in a bank. You're not in a store. So that ATM that is just kind of hanging out there on the beach boardwalk, check it. Make sure there's no skimmers on it. Make sure there's nothing there that's going to steal your card information when you go to use it.
That's a good one.
Those are definitely things to keep in mind, for sure. What else? What was the other thing that you had?
Notify your bank if you're going to be traveling overseas, just so any transactions that you have don't get flagged as fraudulent.
That's a good point.
Some apps allow you to, not like our Card Sweet Lite that we use. You can say, "Hey, I'm traveling from this place to this place," so allow transactions in between the two destinations. But make sure your bank kind of knows that you're going to be traveling, or your credit card company, whoever you use.
And if you do have apps, like you said, like a lot of credit cards have the ability to turn the card off in the app. We have an app that we use at our bank, even though we're a relatively small community bank. It's called Card Sweet Lite, where it's for your debit card. You can turn your card off if you can't find it, so that nobody can use it. Like you said, you can set up borders where you can use it geographically. You can even set up different things in there where you're only allowed to use it at, say, restaurants, but not at an airport, or something along those lines. So if your card or your bank offers that, take advantage of it. Because it's a really, really cool thing to have the ability to do and to have some control over it on yourself. Yeah. The other thing I would say is don't have only one form of payment.
That's a good one too.
Because if you do have to turn your card off, or your card gets stolen, or God forbid your cash gets stolen or something like that, you don't want to be stuck somewhere where you have literally no access to money.
Yeah.
So always have a second or third form of payment available, even if you don't intend to use it per se.
Yeah.
Have it available with you so that if something happens, then keep it separate. Keep that emergency card in a different suitcase, in case keep it in your carry-on in case your luggage gets lost on the plane or gets diverted to Dallas when you're going to San Francisco. Keep it with you. Keep it, somewhere where you always have that other way to pay.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think traveling is fun, and if you can find ways to do it a little less expensively, then why not? You really should, if you can.
Everything's going up in price now, so save $1 where you can.
Yeah, for sure. All right. In that case, Jeff, travel safe.
Yep, safe travels, happy travels.
Yeah, thanks. This podcast focuses on having valuable conversations on various topics related to banking and financial health. The podcast is grounded in having open conversations with professionals and experts, with the goal of helping to take some of the mystery out of financial and related topics, as learning about financial products and services can help you make more informed financial decisions. Please keep in mind that the information contained within this podcast and any resources available for download from our website or other resources relating to Bank Chats is not intended and should not be understood or interpreted to be financial advice. The host, guests, and production staff of Bank Chats expressly recommend that you seek advice from a trusted financial professional before making financial decisions. The host of Bank Chats is not an attorney, accountant, or financial advisor. and the program is simply intended as one source of information. The podcast is not a substitute for a financial professional who is aware of the facts and circumstances of your individual situation. Thank you for listening. Please check out our full library of episodes, which can be found on the Ameriserve.com website. You can also download or stream the podcast from your favorite podcast app.